Oh,
I'm going to do it. We'll just start over.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Hey
that's
guys.
what happened.
That's what happened. That's what we were trying to figure out what was going on, and we just figured it out that I didn't hit the go live button. I'm kind of out of sorts tonight because I'm not in front of my computer. I'm using my laptop to do this webcast, and basically pulled off the side of the road and found a spot to set it up, and that's what's going on. So
Well, that's why you kept getting those things that you're late.
Yeah. Can everybody
well.
see us now?
I hope so.
Well, let's see.
Amanda says it's just her and Joel right now.
Okay. Well, sorry about that, folks. The nature of the beast.
You know, it happens. It's called technical difficulties. I could put this. Yes, Joel's here.
Oh yeah. Well,
Okay.
I just got through hassling all that with DirecTV and AT&T. With they had this dispute with a local NBC affiliate for about 6 weeks. Then for the last week and a half, 2 weeks, they've had it with a local ABC affiliate. I find it hard to get a bunch of sympathy for millionaires squabbling with each other, but that's just me.
It is ridiculous, isn't it, Gary? And just so you know, if any of those folks out there are stuck in that same situation, if you have YouTube TV, you can get the local network channels pretty much just like over the air or through DirecTV when they're not having a pouty fit with the local guys.
Yeah, right. You think if they broke up AT&T again, this would solve anything? Because anytime I try to get any help, I'm always talking to people in the Philippines.
I think AT&T is slowly breaking itself up. I mean, that is a failing company if I ever saw one. They are no longer really in the phone business. They're in the cell phone business. And it's that is a race to the bottom if I ever saw one. And I feel strongly enough about it that I used to work for AT&T, believe it or not. Actually, it was Singular Wireless a long time ago, and I had a little AT&T pension, which I got out of AT&T just last week because there's no guarantees in this life, pensions included, and so you got to watch out for yourself. And AT&T is like just a dinosaur waiting for the next asteroid to hit.
Well, I did get a chance to go from the Philippines the other day to this really nice young lady named Faye in Egypt, whose English was impeccable and who was really nice and did her best to help me, which is quite unusual these days, and when customer service is an oxymoron. But I still feel a lot better if I can talk to Joe in Texas rather than Faye.
Well, let's go back to what we talked about a little bit earlier. The shooting, there was a parade shooting in Kansas City today. 1 killed and 22 injured. And it turns out it's a juvenile. I don't know what they consider juvenile these days, but it was some high school kids or younger that were doing the shooting. It's what they're surmising is it was a dispute between two kids, and they just started shooting. 1 dead and 22 injured later. You know.
And where are they getting these weapons? That's what I want to know. I mean,
they're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. And who is furnishing them? Are they stealing them from their parents, their older brothers or sisters, or I don't know.
Well,
I mean,
the gangs. if they're gang members, then the gangs have them and pass them out like candy. So it's a sad day in America when you have a celebration that in Kansas City that they deserved because they won the Super Bowl, and everybody's happy and everybody's feeling good, and you got a couple of assholes that are not old enough to drive a car, decide to start shooting at each other, and they kill somebody, and then they injured 22. And of the 22, 9 were kids.
Yeah.
It's sad.
So, it's a sad day in America right now. That's all I can feel for this. I feel rage that these kids were able to do this, but I also feel sad for the fact that we're.
Yeah, and
we're having to deal with this.
Something you said while we weren't quite on the air yet is very poignant. Is where are there safe places? Parades? No. Churches, synagogues, mosques? No.
Concerts?
Nope. Where can you go that's really safe these days?
Elementary school, high school, college, the dentist office, doctor's office, nowhere. Nothing is safe. You got people walking around with guns on them on a regular basis. And in Georgia, you can pretty much go anywhere with a gun. We need some better gun control, but without infringing on people's rights. And that's another pickle that nobody has a clue on how to solve it.
Well, I don't mind. I wouldn't mind. You got to have a license to drive a car.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind.
I think you ought to have a license to have a gun and have it on you at all times. I think you ought to be tested before you get a gun, and it's got to be more stringent. I'm a gun owner, so it's not like I'm anti-gun. So I like going out and shooting my gun. It's invigorating, if nothing else. But I only keep my gun for target practice. And if the Russians invade, which they will someday, I think, I don't want to go, damn, I wish I had a gun. I want to be able to defend myself. But, something needs to be done, and it needs to be done soon. Mr. Trump says he would, I want to read this, so I'll make sure I get my facts straight for some people. Trump says he would not protect our allies if they didn't make their payments or whatever to NATO, and would encourage, not only would he not protect him, but he would encourage, he used that word, encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. That's a quote. Whatever
them being Russia.
Yeah, them being Russian. His buddy Putin. That would be so. Joel, you are encouraging Russia to go attack Finland or Poland or Norway or Sweden? Any of those countries you think that's good?
Germany?
Encourage. You're giving a green light to Mr. Putin? Is that your good? That's the one I can come up. Right message, wrong delivery.
Well, again, it's not like you paid dues into NATO. Trump was encouraging people to increase their military for defense purposes, rather than the U.S. being the policeman for the world. There's something to be said for that, but it's not the way NATO works, and it wasn't set up that way for everybody to put in their pool of money. That's not the way it works. I was reading up on that just the other day, and it's just not.
What Gary is saying is direct. It is just on point for Joel's comment there about our assets and when the other countries won't pay their fair share.
Well, if we don't, and if the other countries that have the money to be able to do this, we can't stop them.
Well,
Because
it
if
comes
it
down,
wasn't a NATO, if there wasn't a NATO, Russia would have already taken out Finland, Sweden, Poland, and everybody else that's attached to them, like they're doing to Ukraine.
it all comes down to economics. I mean, everything goes back to the money. Follow the money. If we don't prop up some of these things where we have a vested interest, then how are we going to recover that when it all goes to hell? It's better to stem the tide rather than let the flood overwhelm you. And that's primarily the reason people are talking about Ukraine. I mean, I'm all for, and I applaud them on the idea of human rights and violations and, national sovereignty and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, it really does. It's in our best interest economically, as well as morally, to aid these people.
Yeah.
Economics.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's an older organization. The architecture is the same as it's been for decades, but it still works. It works great, and the original inspiration behind the idea is still just as valid today as it was right after World War II.
Well, for a while there, the other side, Russia and the rest of the communist countries had what they call the Warsaw Pact. Well, since the breakup of the USSR, that has since pretty much dissolved, but NATO is still alive, and because people have decided that more or less capitalistic way of doing business and doing governing is better for everybody. Most of the world lives in a mixed economy now anyway. There's elements of capitalism and socialism in just about every economy in the world now. Some skew more one way or the other. John, you're in the history of economics. This is so. We've got a bunch of.
I think we're in an era of late stage capitalism, and I've got like 2 whole shows we could do about that if you want to.
Sounds like we need to. So
I don't know. It's I think there's plenty of stuff out there to have shows about. That's for sure.
Maybe do one of your bits on how NATO works, the economics of NATO.
That's a good idea.
And then we could explain it to. I agree with the fact that they should pay their fair share, absolutely. But I don't agree with the way he said it and his timing in front of the world, which makes our NATO allies go shudder because, they're scared to death he'll get elected. And it sure as hell didn't help him as far as his election goes. It just makes no sense at all. It's just being a thug. I mean, that he is. We'll have to agree on that. Well, it seems that we have a new Democrat in Congress. Democrat Souza wins in New York special election. The seat left empty by the disgraced George Santos. Was that a joke or what? I mean, how did that guy get elected? I mean, I don't understand it. I mean, I was like, I don't know.
Like, he lied.
He lied.
He lied. He lied. Yeah, he lied a lot about just about everything, and people believed him. What was it? And he told big lies. And you remember that statesman that controlled Germany for a good part of the first part of the 20th century Adolf Hitler said, when you lie, tell a big lie. People are more likely to believe it than a small lie. And he did.
Yep.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was amazing. That's got to be one of the more bizarre pieces of American political theater that we've seen in some time.
Yeah. I mean, he lied about everything. He lied about his mama. He lied about his degrees. He just made some shit up.
To his donors, the people that funded his campaign. It's just amazing. Well, it was good news for the Democrats. I don't know if they can, like, one special election does not make a trend, but it was at least some good news for the Democrats for today anyway.
Well, maybe if we get a couple more in there, we get something done with the border, because obviously the Republicans aren't going to do anything until after the election. So
No.
they
I think
put a
you're pretty
kill
much
on
right
that.
there.
They're not going to do anything. And we got, 8 or 9 months till the election. Hopefully by then we can get a couple of those idiots out. And that little, the new speaker, he is an absolute nothing. What a loser. Seriously.
Well, he's stuck. He's stuck behind any one person from his party can do a motion to vacate the speakership, and he's gone. So he's not there for the function of government in the House. He's there for the Republican Party and whatever it says about, legislation they want to see or don't want to see for that.
I will absolutely agree with you, Joel. I think Biden has done a miserable job on the border. I have no problems with that, saying that. And yeah, they need to lock it down.
I think all the presidents back to Reagan have done a miserable job on the border and immigration policy. That's why we're in the fix we're in. But they don't share that blame alone. That's part of the Congress's job too. The executive branch is only the executive branch. Congress is the one who makes the laws.
Yeah. Well, I don't believe there's anything. So two things to the last couple of comments I've seen about the border. It's, believe it or not, it's not just the function of the border doesn't work that way when it comes to the president. He can't close the border unless, in fact, I don't know if there's even an unless. I don't think he can close the border. And so, and I'm going to disagree with Joel's last statement where he says Biden signed a bunch of executive orders undoing what Trump has done. He can fix it all by himself. Well, he did undo some of them. In fact, I think whatever the courts didn't stop before Biden came to office, he undid some of the executive orders that Trump had put in place on the border. But he, can't help you with that one, Joel. Sorry, I got off track. He has left some of the executive orders in place, and in fact, one of them just expired because it had to. There was no way for him to leave it open. Joel, if you sit and think about it, bro, we need to have the borders open. They need to be under better control. What we need is open borders and a good system to manage the immigrants that come in, because that part is not working great. And I've had the floor for way too long, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Let's see, Andrea, I think you're thinking about Title 42, and yes, that title that's part of the immigration code was applied to immigration during the pandemic, but it only applies, basically if you want to say, hey, you're sick, you're not going to enter the country, you can't come in, and they used it a lot. But it expired with the end of the pandemic. There's the original Title 8 that they're now using to good effect on the border. Believe it or not, in spite of what you see on the news, they are turning away a lot of people at the border who aren't supposed to be here.
All righty.
Well, the special counsel urges Supreme Court to deny Trump's request for delay in immunity case. He's still pounding on that immunity. And he keeps getting slammed down.
Well, no, the Supreme Court needs to step up and make a ruling. That's what I'm going to say about that. One way or the other, the Supreme Court needs to be heard. Because if they don't, it's just going to get kicked around and kicked around and kicked around again. So they need to come up. That there's in that one little clause, about the can't be elected if you engaged in insurrection. Well, was that an insurrection, or was it irresponsibility? What was that? They need to make a ruling. The Supreme Court needs to say something, because all these little courts, it's all just going to keep getting kicked up and kicked up and kicked up. And they don't need to let it lay there either. They need to make a ruling and make it stick. And then we can live with that. You can protest it, you can talk around, you can make laws and all that kind of stuff, but when the Supreme Court says it, it's that for a while. We've seen all this happen with the first part of Roe v. Wade. We've seen the aftermath of that when they tossed it out and kicked it back to the states. So the same thing needs to be said with all of this business about immunity or not immunity. They need to make a definitive ruling and let that be policy.
Yeah, well, hopefully a president will take his Secret Service and send them out to kill whoever's running against him so he can be guaranteed a win.
Well, they need to make a ruling and clarify things. What does immunity in the office of the president consist of? Is it just because when the next party gets in, they get all pissed off about something you've done and want to impeach you or something like that? See, there's got to be some kind of a ruling. There's got to be some guidelines, some precedent set. I mean, I've seen that ruling, that example too before, Bill, and that's a ridiculous example, but sometimes you do ridiculous examples to call attention to itself. The Supreme Court needs to say, okay, this is the way this is going to be. The president is granted this kind of immunity for this or this or this, but he's not granted immunity for anything that a regular citizen can be prosecuted for within the line of being a regular citizen. Obviously, the president has his privy to information that he doesn't want everybody to see because he's the president.
Right.
But what do you do with somebody when they're out of office? And are they still claiming some kind of presidential immunity because of some bad decision that they made? We're going to say we're going to throw out all these parking tickets. The only thing that came close to that was when Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon, because Nixon was about to be tried and probably convicted. But Ford, and I think probably wisely, determined the country had suffered enough with all this Watergate business. Everybody knew he was guilty. So just get rid of him. And that's what they did.
Well, I'm thinking that it's about time we venture on into other parts of our show, or the next part of our show. And we'll do that about right now. Well, that ain't working. I'm not Gary, I promise you.
No. There we are. All right. For my time tonight, I want to talk about a couple of things. One, you may be able to see it on my board. Today is Ash Wednesday, but it also happens to be Valentine's Day. Well, a long time ago, people began to equate the notion of Saint Valentine with romantic love, although there is some kind of a dispute as to which Saint Valentine you were talking about. There was probably a man named Valentine, and there may have been a couple, or maybe they were the same guy. Anyway, I think the notion of romantic love first began to be equated with Valentine because there was a ruling in the old Roman Empire at one time that young men didn't need to marry; they wanted them to be soldiers. Well, Valentine would slip around and marry these people that wanted to get married, and that eventually cost him his life. More than likely, though, the feast of Valentine's Day was the old Roman pagan festival of something called Lupercalia, which happened more or less around February the 15th. Somehow those kind of things became conflated, and it wasn't until Geoffrey Chaucer began to talk about sending Valentines and Valentine's Day. Yeah, Geoffrey Chaucer, the guy that wrote the Canterbury Tales, that guy was when the notion of Valentine's and romantic love became intertwined, later on picked up by Shakespeare and so forth. Well, it's a day, though, celebrated by love. And Ash Wednesday is the first day of a season in the church called Lent. Now, Lent is the 40 days between Ash Wednesday and Easter, not counting Sundays. So when people say that I'm going to give up this or give up that for Lent, you can still indulge in whatever that you want to on Sunday, because in the old ancient rites and traditions of the church, every Sunday is a little Easter. So if you've decided to say you don't want to eat red meat for Lent, okay, you can have yourself a hamburger on Sundays, or so the old ancient tradition says. People say they're going to give up things for Lent. Guy says to me, I'm going to give up broccoli and cauliflower. Well, do you like broccoli and cauliflower? Well, no, but I'll just give it up anyway. Well, see, that doesn't mean anything now, does it? So instead of giving up something like that, why don't we do this? Why don't we give up old grudges? Why don't we give up not being willing to listen to what the other person has to say and give them the benefit of the doubt? At least listen to them for what they have to say, see if what they have to say makes sense. Why don't we give up being unkind? Why don't we give up holding things over and over and over until you just beat yourself to death with them and you don't do yourself any good at all? Or why don't you give up a bad habit or two? Why don't you give that up for a minute and make it stick till after? Or maybe you take up something. Maybe you take up another study. Maybe you take up walking for exercise. Maybe you take up this for Lent and you keep it going until after Easter. Yeah. Give up the bad stuff. Take up the good stuff. Why don't we do that for Lent? And you can keep those going on Sunday too, by the way. That's my time out. Thanks for yours. I'm Gary Glenn.
This webcast is brought to you by William Lofton Photography. They can be found at williamlofton.com. Offering event residential portraiture at williamlofton.com.
Here we go. All right, now I'm unmuted. Okay, so I'm going to go quickly. So today we're going to talk about immigration, and we're going to do this in two parts. This week we'll talk about legal immigration, and next week we'll talk about illegal immigration, which, as you can tell, is a whole other thing. Immigration, you can break immigration down into the legal and illegal parts. Immigrants that come to this country are legal immigrants, or they are refugee arrivals, or they are asylees, or they are illegal immigrants. And I'm going to explain, and by the way, these are all from, these definitions are all from the Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Patrol. These are the guys that meet and greet the people coming to this country every day. So legal immigrants cross the border as part of the legal permanent resident process. So they have an appointment, they've set it up, they literally have an appointment to come to the United States. Everything is set up, they have to follow the process, but they're here legally. And that is the largest portion of people that come to this country. Refugee arrivals, refugees have lost the protection of their country of origin, or they fear returning to their country because of persecution. Asylees are asylum seekers, and they're making a claim of being forcibly displaced. Maybe they fled their country because of war or other factors like earthquakes, acts of God, gangs running the country. Let's think about Haiti and parts of Central America. If you come to the border as an asylum seeker, it is possible for you to go through that process and then become a refugee in this country, and that's all legal. There's a process in place that's been working for years and years. Lastly, there are illegal immigrants, so we're going to talk about next week, but those are the folks that enter the U.S. illegally, not at a border crossing, so they're going somewhere in the desert or along the border that's not patrolled, or they're here legally and their legal immigration status expires, but they don't leave, they just stay here. Let's talk about legislation really quick. The significant parts of legislation for immigration were done in 1924, so 100 years ago, 1952, and 1965. After that, there's been no significant legislation from Congress on immigration. Everything else has been done by executive order or other agencies working at the border. There have been some significant executive orders: 1981, Ronald Reagan, 1995, 2001, George W. Bush, and the Dreamers agency action that President Obama did. Let's talk about percentages. Who comes to this country? Of everybody that comes to this country, how does it break down? So legal immigrants make up 74% of the total immigration population. Refugees make up 2%. Asylees make up 3%. Illegal immigrants make up 22% of the total. The highest legal immigration that we've had in the country happened back in 1991, where we had over 1,800,000 legal immigrants. That was during George H.W. Bush's administration, if memory serves. So let's show, I want to put up one graph that shows legal immigration over time so you can get some context for what we're talking about. So the peak in the graph that you see right there is that number that I was just talking about. And I wish this was bigger, but the graph goes as far out as 2020 and stops right there. That is the other thing I wanted to add to this discussion, and then I'll be through. It's really hard to find good information about immigration that is impartial, that is just the facts, doesn't include somebody's opinion, including the numbers. You would think numbers are numbers, and with immigration, no, it's not. We're dealing with a moving target, and so much of what's out there is just an estimate, somebody's best guess. So take the numbers with a grain of salt. The ones you hear from me, the ones you hear on the TV news, wherever you get your information from, take them with a grain of salt. All of the things that I talked about tonight or any other night are at the address you see at the top of the screen there that Bill so kindly put up for us. Save all of my little talks at that site, and you can go back and read them all. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Hey, Bill, I'm not seeing Gary out there.
Yeah.
There he is.
Hard time. I don't know what's going on here.
Hey, can I backtrack really quick and extend my little talk for just a moment?
Yeah, give me a second.
Okay.
Well, William is in fact refereeing.
Yeah, he is refereeing, and I just want to make the sports part very short. I don't know why the background's not coming up. There it is. There we go. I wanted to bring all three of us up here because we all three are from Northeast Georgia. We all played ball together, and just want to make a special mention that the winning touchdown pass was caught by a Georgia native, Miko Hardman, from the city of Bowman, Georgia, which is in Elbert County, and he just happened to be a University of Georgia dog. And that's pretty much all I got to say about it, other than the fact that it was a great game.
Yeah, and the most watched event in American television history. Between 133 and 134 million people watched the Super Bowl, and probably more than that tuned in and out. So basically, over a third of the population of this country tuned in to the Taylor Swift effect Super Bowl.
It was the most watched television show since the moonwalk.
Well, and
Wow.
I think it even eclipsed that as far as pure numbers are concerned. It beat the
No,
MASH
you
season finale.
Yeah, you got to think about the moonwalk was broadcast all over the
1969.
world, all over the
Well,
world.
and it was in 1969 when you didn't have.
Then
all
it was
these
1960.
TV
But
shows.
that was statistic I saw was that it was the moonwalk was the last time it had that many people on.
Well, and I think it's directly as a result of all the other publicity from around the other stuff. That plus the commercials, which were they were all right this year. Some of them were a little disappointing, I thought, for the fact that what we've seen in the past. You know, you didn't want to. This is one of those ones where you didn't really want to go to the bathroom. You know, you want to see what the commercials are going to do.
Yeah,
True.
absolutely.
When the talking heads got on there, that's kind of when I think I went. You know, for a while there, you know, when the commercials weren't such a big deal, the first commercial break, because, you know, a long time ago, they would go a long time before they would ever take a break in the Super Bowl. First commercial break, water pressure in the major cities would all go down because everybody would go to the John and flush the toilet. That's about all we got to do. Oh, but except for the state wrestling tournament, we all wrestle too. State wrestling tournaments this weekend, the traditional, and they're gonna have it all in Macon, boys and girls, all classifications, public and private.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
If you are a wrestling fan, starting tomorrow, Macon is the place to be through Saturday, and you'll see some great wrestling.
Or if you're a parent and you're looking for a sport for your kids, wrestling is a great sport.
Get them involved in that. You know, your daddy, Bill, always said that he wanted his wide receivers and the skill people to play basketball, but he wanted everybody else to wrestle. Made them better football players. Amen to that.
Amen to that. All right, let's go on to next portion
Whether
of our
or
show.
not.
Whether or not. Well, obviously, we're having all kinds of technical issues tonight. I apologize for that, first of all. There's my river around me, my background. But whether or not, the only thing I got to say is, as far as the weather goes, that we got a gully washer the other night. It rained all day long. I think we got around 3.5, 4 inches of rain, and it definitely was a gully washer. So if you wanted your creeks cleaned out, it happened this past week. Hopefully it would be, the weather these days is kind of weird. I'm a gardener. Gardening has been weird for the last 2 years. And the problem is it rains like it did a couple of days ago, where you get 3 or 4 inches, and then it doesn't rain again for another 6 to 10 to 12. We even had 14 days last summer where it didn't rain a drop. And that always makes it kind of hard to grow anything. I think the West Coast is still recovering from all the onslaught of the river of rain they got. I saw a mansion that was this beautiful house up on top of a hill where their backyard just got washed out. And just the end of their house is hanging off a cliff that's a couple 100 feet up. If somebody fell off that cliff, it would hurt them really bad. If their house fell off, it would be awful. And all we can do is pray for those people out there and hope they do better. But that's all I got on the weather. On the night, I'm gonna have to say that my engine light on my car will not go off. I've been to 3 auto mechanics, and I paid in excess of $1,000 and had some work done on it and some other work done on it, and my damn light's still on, and I'm really not feeling good about that. I don't know if the quality of mechanics these days it's all computerized. It used to be they'd open up your hood and look in it and trying to figure around and look at you and say, well, it's probably your, whatchamacallit. It's not attached to that thing. And it seems that the art of auto mechanics is going down. So if anybody out there knows an auto mechanic that's within driving distance of Toccoa, Georgia, please let me know. Because I'd definitely like to find one, because I ain't found one yet that can fix my car. And another thing I got a problem with auto mechanics is right now, if you take your car into a shop, they charge you $110 diagnostic fee from the jump. I don't understand that. That means when I walk into the place, I owe them $110 because I know they're going to do a diagnostic. And that's basically putting it on the computer and trying to figure out what it tells them to fix. And a lot of times they don't fix it. Now, it is what it is. And I guess I'll figure out what to do on that. But that's about all I got to say. It couldn't go any worse. Well, here I am by myself again.
Hi.
There's Gary. There's
Hi,
John.
everybody.
Well, this has been a tough thing. I'm having to run this off of my hotspot from my phone. So maybe to help you understand what's going on with this this broadcast of the Phi Omega network.
Technology is a wonderful thing when it works.
Yeah, when it works. But right now it's basically instead of driving a car, we're riding a bicycle, and it's got a flat tire. John had something else he wanted to add.
Yeah, really quick. Andrea was asking, when was the start date of the graph? And the start date of that graph that I put up was 1820. So it went from 1820 to 2020. And and I'm going to say, actually, I'm going to try to put it up. I'm going to try to share my screen. See if it'll let me.
I just did it, John. What's up?
Okay, I was going to try to do a bigger version of it, but so, yep, it goes from 1820 to 2020, 200 years of legal immigration to the United States. And the peak that you see there at 1,800,000 is in 1991. So what this is for is, here you have some perspective. Legal immigration to this country has been higher several times over the life of the country than it is right now. It's right now looks, I don't know how you would say that if you were going to, it's following the trend, is about all you can say. From it's up and down, and And these numbers are just all over the place. I'm looking. Sorry, I'm going to quit. Anyway, to answer Andrea's question, begins in 1820, ends in 2020.
All right.
And Joel, I don't know if he's still with us, but he asked, why doesn't President Biden just shut the border down? And I have a response for that, but I'm going to wait for my little talk about illegal immigration to talk about that.
Oh, a tease.
Well,
For
folks,
next week's show.
Stay with us. We're gonna have days like this, and but we will always be Wednesdays, and and we would love your. We all kind of flooded out there.
Yeah.
We're
It's you, Bill.
would like to hear about.
I think we better sign off.
Sure.
We're running out of juice.
Juice. Anyway, if you hear me, stay with us because we still got lots to talk about, and we will be back next week. And my desktop, my studio is, and I won't be on at a hamburger joint shortly. Today is my 30th anniversary.
We meant to say happy anniversary.
Congratulations.
The
Bill
best
and Charlotte.
decision I ever made in my life was in Charlotte, and I look forward to see her in a few. I'll be home in less than an hour. And I love you.
Well, and the woman is a saint.
She would kind of have to be, wouldn't you?
Yeah, happy anniversary, Bill, and many more to you and Charlotte. Two of my favorite people in the world. Take
See
care.
you guys next week.
All right.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
See you next week.